Hi and welcome back. So in this video we continue our analysis of chapter 9 and we look at the equilibrium of the firms under perfect competition. So we are going to combine the cost curve derived in chapter 8, the two profit maximizing rules that we applied to firms in the beginning of this chapter, and the demand curve for the product for the firms to examine the equilibrium of the firm under perfect competition. So we've already shown that firm profit is maximized where marginal revenue is equals to marginal cost. We've also shown that the marginal revenue is equals to the market price, which therefore means that the profit maximizing rule in the case of a perfectly competitive firm can therefore be stated as price is equals to marginal cost, because marginal revenue is equals to price, and we know that profit is maximized where marginal revenue is equals to marginal cost. So putting the three factors that we have just stated gives us this curve. So profit is maximized where marginal cost is equals to marginal revenue, or where marginal revenue is equals to marginal cost. So while we can see that marginal revenue is equals to marginal cost at 2 points, that's this point of Q1 as well as Q2, we have to disregard or ignore the point of Q1. So this is because at Q1, losses are maximized instead of profit being maximized. That is at the point where the marginal revenue is equals to marginal cost along the falling part of the marginal cost, such as Q1. That is, the losses are being maximized, while in a point where the marginal revenue is equals to the marginal cost along the rising part of the marginal cost curve, then profit is being maximized. So the reason why we are saying losses are being maximized at a point such as Q1 here, and why we say we must ignore the declining part of the marginal cost curve, is because at any point to the left of Q1, so between 0 and Q1, marginal cost lies above marginal revenue. So in other words, each additional unit of product up to Q1, from 0 to Q1, cost more to produce than the price at which it can be sold. So at this stage, the firm's average revenue is also less than its average cost. So up to Q1, the firm therefore makes only losses. So at quantities greater than Q1, so from Q1 and above, marginal revenue is greater than the marginal cost, and the firm starts earning a profit on each additional unit it produces. So the total loss of firms therefore starts to fall and can turn into total profit at some stage. That is where average revenue becomes greater than average cost. That is at Q2. So at Q2, the firm's profit is maximized, or its losses are minimized. So it should be clear, therefore, that the falling part of the marginal cost can be disregarded when analyzing the equilibrium position of the firm, because we are more interested in profit maximization. So we can also use numerical examples to explain why profit is maximized when marginal revenue is equals to marginal cost. So suppose a firm produces a product which it sells in a perfectly competitive market, where the price is given by 10 Rand per unit. So the firm's fixed cost amounts to 5 Rand. So the firm's daily output revenue and cost are summarized in this table. So the marginal revenue and marginal cost of the firm can also be shown graphically in in this graph. So the marginal cost of the first unit of unit produced is 4 rand there, indicated by point A. So this is lower than the marginal revenue of 10 rand. That is the price of the product. So the production of the first unit therefore adds 6 rand, which is basically 10 minus the 10 minus the 4 rand. It adds 6 rand to the profit of the firm. Likewise, the marginal cost of the second unit of 6 rand, which is represented by B, is also lower than the marginal revenue of the second unit. So the production of the second unit therefore adds 4 rand to the profit of the firm, which is the difference between 10 rand and 6 rand. So point C shows the production of the third unit cost. That's point C, which is 8 rand. So it can be sold for 10 rand, and the firm will therefore add to its profit by producing the third unit. So the extra profit will be now 2 rand, which is the difference between 10 rand and 8 rand. For the fourth unit, which is represented by D there, the marginal cost is equals to the marginal revenue, and is also equals to the price, which is 10. And the firm therefore makes no further profit. So this serves as a signal that the point of maximum profit has been reached. So if the firm produces 5 units of products, for instance, that's 5 units of product. Marginal cost indicated by point E there will be 12 rand. That's the price, which is greater than the marginal revenue of 10 rand. So the firm profit will therefore decline by 2 rand, which is the difference between 10 and 12, which is 10 minus 12, which is negative 2. That is if the fifth unit of product is produced. So this example confirms the conclusion we reached earlier, that a firm should expand its production as long as marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, up to the point where marginal revenue is equals to marginal cost, at which that point it will be a point where the profit is maximized. So if the firm continues to produce beyond that point, marginal revenue will be lower than the marginal cost, and the firm's profit will start falling. The next question to ask is that, does profit maximization by firms also imply economic profit? The answer is that not necessarily, because we have to first determine whether we are covering all costs, that is fixed and variable cost. We need to check whether the average revenue from producing a certain amount of goods covers the average cost of producing it. So this firm's profit position can be illustrated clearly by adding the average cost and into the diagram showing the average revenue, marginal revenue, and marginal cost that we just looked at. But before we do that, let's just recall what we covered in chapter 8, that average cost consists of average fixed cost and average variable cost. So the firm's profit per unit of output, or average profit, is equals to the difference between the average revenue and the average cost. As long as the average revenue is greater than the average cost, the firm is earning an economic profit. However, when average revenue is equals to average cost, the firm earns only normal profit. And if you can recall from chapter 8 that the normal profit is included in the firm's cost. So we are going to look at the different possible short-run equilibrium position of the firm under perfect competition. So we'll look at the economic profit, a break-even, as well as economic loss. So this figure represents the economic profit. So it shows the average revenue, marginal revenue, average cost, and marginal cost of a firm under perfect competition. So average revenue and marginal revenue are both equals to the price as we've already established, and are represented by the same horizontal line here. And the level of market price is also represented there. So the cost structure of the firm is the same as that we explained in chapter 8. Okay, so as we know, profit is maximized where marginal revenue, which is equals to the price, is also equals to the marginal cost. So this occurs at a quantity of Q1 here. So at this point there, that's where profit is maximized. So at Q1, firm's average, its average revenue is equals to, which is equals to P1, is greater than the average cost, which is indicated by C1. The firm therefore makes an economic profit per unit of production of P1 minus or to C1. P1 to C1. So the firm's total profit is given by the shaded area here, which is represented by C1, P1, E1, as well as M, which is equals to the profit per unit of output, P1 to C1, multiplied by the quantity produced, represented by Q1. Alternatively, the area representing total profit can be obtained by subtracting the firm's total cost from the total revenue. So the firm's total revenue is equals to the price of the product P1 multiplied by the quantities produced, which is Q1. So this is equals to the area of 0, P1, E1, as well as Q1. So similarly, the firm's total cost is obtained by multiplying the cost C1 by the quantities produced, which is Q1. So this is equal to the area of 0, C1, M as well as Q1. So the difference between these two areas is the shaded area, which represents the firm's total economic profit. The second illustration is that of normal profit only. So this figure shows the market price of P2. So it is equals to the marginal cost at the point where marginal cost intersects average cost. That is at the minimum point of average cost, or rather the turning point of average cost. So the corresponding level of output is Q2. And at Q2, the level of output average revenue is equals to the average cost there. That is total revenue is equals to total cost. And the firm therefore does not earn economic profit. It does, however, earn a normal profit since all its costs, which includes normal profit, are fully covered. So the last curve we'll look at represents the economic loss. So in this figure, the market price is represented by P3. So marginal revenue or price is equals to the marginal is equals to the marginal cost at quantity Q3. So at that quantity, the firm's average revenue is lower than the average cost. As you can see, average revenue is lower than the average cost. It therefore makes an economic loss per unit of output produced, equals to the difference between C3 and P3. So total economic loss is represented by the shaded area there. So whether or not the firm should continue producing depends on the level of average cost relative to the firm's average variable cost, which is not shown in the figure. So if the average cost is greater than the average variable cost, the firm will be able to recoup some of its fixed cost and should therefore continue producing in the short run. But if the opposite case applies, then the firm must shut down, and we'll analyze this further in the next video. Thank you.